Welcome back to the Have You Seen It podcast. I'm Dan.
I'm Adam.
I'm Jared.
And I'm Jess.
And today we are talking about I'm Still Here, a movie that was just recently released in the U.S. back in February, but is nominated for 3 different Oscars. Really different movie than I think we've reviewed on this podcast before, so I'm interested to talk about it. Should be a good episode.
First international film, I think.
First one on our podcast.
First one.
Yeah, I think so.
Yep. That is a good call out. Does anyone have like a good just trivia to start off about the movie?
I got one. Let me find it quick. So just to start us off, I want to talk about Fernanda Torres, who plays the lead in the film. So I have a trivia question about her. So she, like you said, is nominated for Academy Award for Best Actress. She is the second Brazilian actress to be nominated. So my question is, what was the movie of the first Brazilian actress?
Oh, what was the movie?
Yeah, what was the movie?
I think I know who the actress was.
Yep. So,
but I don't know the movie.
I think I know too. Do we get a multiple choice?
you get multiple choice.
Oh,
so
okay.
I have. So here's the movies: A. Central Station, B. City of God, C. The Year My Parents Went on Vacation, or D. Pixode, which I probably completely mispronounced.
Now, can I ask a follow-up question?
Sure,
Are all these films Brazilian?
they are.
Okay, dang it. I thought I was going to narrow it down by knowing one of them
All
was
right,
Brazilian.
so let's just take a couple seconds to think.
I'm going to guess the last one.
Okay, you guess the last one?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You go first.
I was going to say City of God because it's the only one I know of that list.
Yeah, City of God is what I was going to say too.
Jess? You
The
said the last
last
one?
one,
Okay.
yeah.
It's actually the first one. So,
Damn.
A. Central
Really?
Station. Yep.
Okay.
All right.
My first
Adam,
guess.
you
Trust
thought
your
you knew the
gut.
actress?
It's her mom, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's her mom.
Oh
yeah, it was the
my
first Brazilian actress to be nominated. Isn't that cool?
Was Fernanda Torres' mom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Wow,
Keep
that
it in the
is really
family.
cool. I love
Yeah, so that film came out in 1999 for anyone who's
Dude,
interested.
that's actually
Amazing.
so badass.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
That is cool.
That is super cool. Well, has anyone been, before we dive into the movie, any like good watches that
Oh, gosh,
people
I
have?
forgot.
I just watched the Wild Robot, which
Wild
is an
Robot.
animated film. It's up for animated film for Oscars.
Okay.
Kind of had like a Wall-E vibe to it. Very kind of similar story. Animation was beautiful. It's up for best score too. The music was really good.
Nice.
Yeah.
I watched The Gorge, which was on Apple TV.
Okay. Good or not?
It wasn't bad, but so basically the premise. Well, I don't know how deep I want to go into it, but Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy, they're like snipers, and they're like on two sides of the gorge, and they have to like stop things from coming out of the gorge, basically. So the first half was like a romance of them, like, you know, they're not supposed to talk to each other, so they're like riding on cards, and there's a love building. And actually, the first half was way better than the second half, so that was pretty good. But then all of a sudden, once the monsters start coming, it's just like, it felt like a video game movie, like from the 2000s or something. So it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great.
Yeah, I got to say, I saw the trailer, and because we were talking about reviewing that one, and I was like, ugh, that doesn't seem like it would be a great movie.
Yeah,
so-
I'm glad we didn't review it, yeah. So I watched that. We also watched Aquila and the Bee. This is the first time
I love Aquila and the Bee.
I thought, yeah, this is Maddie really likes that movie and grew up with it, but I had never seen
Kiki's
it.
popping off right now.
That's
She's
true.
doing her press
That's
for
true.
one of them days.
Yep,
Ooh.
and I really liked it. It was really good.
Watch that.
It was,
again.
yeah.
When did it come out?
I could probably find it right now. 2006.
2006.
Adam's
Jess,
got me
that was
fired
one
up
of your
about
recent
Kiki.
watches was Kiki's movie.
Oh,
The one
that's-
you just said.
Yeah, I guess my recent one is one of them days.
Did you like it?
Yeah.
Was
it was
funny?
like it was funny. It was like kind of like a buddy not slapstick, but kind of. Yeah, I love Kiki Palmer. Anything she's gonna do, I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna support. You know,
Nice.
and Issa Rae is the director and writer, and SZA was in it. Yeah, it was cool.
We've mainly been watching TV shows. It feels like lately.
Yeah.
But I did watch The Wolf with George Clooney and
didn't
Brad
watch
Pitt. Not a great movie. Not a great movie. It's, two basically like fixers that have to come and clean up a mess, but they both get called to the same job, and then they go down this rabbit hole of trying to clean it up, and they find out that they're much more connected than they ever thought. It's kind of dumb.
So it's not a tie-in to Ocean's 11.
No.
I gotta say, I knew that movie was gonna be exactly what it ended up being. Dan kept asking me to watch it, and I was like, no. It just looks like it's two like old dudes trying to be cool. Like they're past their primes in their careers, and they're like, let's just do like a fun movie, dude. Like that'd be so fun.
It wasn't even that funny either.
It wasn't. It tried too hard.
Well, let's talk more about I'm Still Here. For those who don't know that are listening to the podcast, it is a Brazilian film, and the logline is a mother is forced to reinvent herself when her family's life is shattered by an act of arbitrary violence during the tightening grip of a military dictatorship in Brazil during 1971. So this is actually based on a true story. I didn't realize that going into this, and so it wasn't until the end where I was like, oh, there was actually a coup d'etat that happened. It was a very dark period in Brazil's time. So this was a movie that I'm sure resonated with a lot of Brazilians. But a couple of interesting facts. The budget was $1.5 million.
I saw that.
So like
pretty wild.
Micro compared to anything else we've talked
Yeah,
about.
I looked up I always compare to Furiosa because we reviewed that. Furiosa was 168 million. This was 1.5 million.
1.5 million.
It's crazy.
Yep. Opening weekend was only like just over 100,000, but so far it's grossed 27.5 million worldwide. So it's the highest grossing Brazilian film since COVID-19. Not in total, but like of all time, but of recent time. So yeah, and the lead actors, Fernanda Torres is Eunice Paiva. Did I say that right, Jess?
Eunice Paiva.
Yep. And then Selton Mayo or Mello. Mayo was Rubens Paiva. So those were our main actors.
We should say, just for anybody who doesn't know, it's in Portuguese, so it's subtitles. So just
International film, yep.
just gotta be prepared for
Hey,
that.
culture yourself.
No,
if you're
I'm not.
against
I'm
that.
not
if
saying.
you're watching this and you're saying, I am not watching one of those movies. I don't want to read. I want to watch. Culture yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So what were people's general impressions?
I can start.
Yeah.
I'll start. I liked the movie. I thought it was well made. The filmmaking was good, especially on the budget like that. I thought it looked great. The acting was really good. Fernanda Torres was very good. I felt her pain, I liked just all the kind of like the family stuff, getting to know the family at the beginning was fun. It left something to desire, I will say. I think because it's a real story, there were some faults of that because basically I wish it was more exciting, I will say. So like they're kind of like just following whatever the story was. But if you were to like write this, you would have had a lot more ups and downs and it's like a little bit more exciting. That was the biggest thing. Like I liked it all, but I wish there was more to it, to the story. And like, it's a little bit of a mystery, but I feel like none of those questions have interesting answers. They're kind of just like normal, like what you would expect. So
yeah, this is definitely not some sort of like a thriller mystery of what happened to Eunice's husband, and that's what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be like higher intensity.
Yeah, Dan pitched this to me. He goes, "This is like a crime drama, girl," and I go, "Say less. I love true crime."
well, he's not wrong. It is a crime drama.
It is, but it was definitely not like what comes to mind.
The trailer really like amped it up a little bit more than what it was, and
yeah, that's true.
It was a slow burner. It was more of that like artsy filmmaker, and more of a focus on the character and like watching Eunice like her transformation and her struggle and her pain and really feeling that. So it was like if you go in with the expectations, you want to have something exciting. It is not that, and it feels long. And I think that's maybe why I went in and I was slightly disappointed, and I want to go back and watch it again with like a fresh perspective. and not be so rushed because we kind of got into the theater 10 minutes late and missed the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, we missed like the first.
And then
minutes.
Jessica, she's like sitting down, like her credit card and her license kept falling out of her pocket. So she's like huffing and puffing, trying to get that like picked up for the like 5 more minutes. And then like it was.
I ruined the movie, you
No.
guys.
It was just like
Dan's like, if I hadn't had that, maybe I would have liked
No,
it.
I'm just saying we got in there, and for the type of movie it is, like kind of coming in a little chaotic, like late, and then taking a little bit to settle in, and then feeling like you're like missing it. It was hard to really like get locked in. So it was, in hindsight, it was good, but yeah, not what I expected.
Side question. So you went to my movie theater, St. Anthony, Maine. Were you in the theater that had the couch in the back?
Huh?
No. Okay. There's one of those theaters up there. It has a couch, and I've never sat on the couch. I'm like, I kind of want to sit in the couch one time. That's all.
Yeah,
That's side
I
tangent.
gotta say, I'm not going back to the main
Oh,
theater.
Dan is one of those people.
Or the main cinema.
For the viewers, Dan is definitely one of those people that like is very
I'm an audiophile.
very picky
Me
about
too.
not just that, but like the quality of the picture, like the screen and the audio and like all of it. He's very, very like for him that is what makes the movie experience. To me, Dan goes, "Oh, the acoustics in there were so terrible," and I was like, I have no clue what you're talking about. Like
Yeah.
to me,
No
I'm-
surround sound, echoey, and only front channels at the very front. And so like you miss out on the immersiveness that as I'm like listening to other people's perspective, they like talked about how immersive the film was. And I didn't get to experience that. So
Yeah, but it was made in like the theater was probably made in like the 40s or the
I know.
20s.
Yeah.
Like enjoy that part of it.
It's history.
But I do agree with you. The audio is not good in that theater.
yeah, that's a big thing for me too. Is just like if the audio's not good, can't stand it.
it's half the movie.
Yep. For me, I really enjoyed the film. I like probably all of us didn't know anything really about the story at all going into it. I didn't watch the trailer, so maybe that helped that I skipped the trailer. So I didn't know anything going in. I enjoyed it from just the history aspect of it. I liked that it was kind of more of a slow burn. I'm with you, Adam. Like the beginning was like really effective at like getting me to care about the family.
Yeah.
Especially, I feel like towards the end, there were like certain story beats that you kind of expect to happen in a film, and it just doesn't really happen.
Right.
Like
where
what
if they-
story beats?
Where if they were gonna like dramatize a little bit more, you might kind of play into like having the military be more of a villain throughout the film, and they're kind of just on the side.
Yeah. I mean,
for
they're
the most
definitely a
part.
villain. Like when they're like taking people and like
Right.
doing all that.
Right,
stuff,
but the film doesn't focus on it too much as like towards the end.
Yeah. I mean, my thing was it's like hinting at like what the dad's doing or like, oh, even at one point they're like, is the daughter a part of these things?
Yeah.
And it just doesn't play out how I
Right.
would.
Right, they're trying
want
to
it to play out,
They're
or-
trying to build like a sense of mystery around
Yeah,
that, and
yeah.
I feel like there was pieces too that I wasn't really picking up on that maybe going back and watching I'd pick up on a little bit more, and just kind of what the dad was doing at the beginning of the film.
Yeah.
And
Right.
just and I've read a little bit more into like the actual character it's based on, and gotten
Yeah.
a little bit more from that, but the film doesn't really tell you that.
Gotcha. Yeah. I have a question. Well, we should talk about that
Yeah.
later because I did have a question about that.
Jess?
I don't know. I mean, I think for me, it was a good movie. Like to Adam's point, it was to both of your points. Like it was intimate storytelling, right? This isn't necessarily. This is somebody's real life story that's based on a memoir, and so I think to its own detriment, but also like success is that it probably stays true to the story, and
Right.
that's why it's not going
Yeah.
into these rabbit holes of like based on, and what you see with a lot of true life stories, especially for people that are like public figures, where then the family comes out and is like, no, that's
Right.
not, we
Yeah.
don't support it, that wasn't really how things happen, and we weren't involved or whatever. I feel like that's kind of why it was so like things that you would have expected to be some there don't really pan out to
Yeah.
me, but I liked it. I think Fernanda did an incredible job. Like I think the subtleties of especially like motherhood, but also like holding it down for your family was
Family of 5 too.
really
Holy cow, yeah.
she did an incredible job of doing that in all the things that she didn't say, and all the things that she that you could read on her face, and that you could like feel through the screen. I think she did a really good job of that. So I thought it was really good, intimate storytelling. This was one of the first times I've gone into it like not knowing what to expect at all. I'm usually like a trailer person. I gotta vet. I gotta know what I'm going into. I gotta know who's in it, what it's about. And all I literally knew about this movie was Dan was like, yeah, it's about this lady whose husband goes missing and it's like a crime drama. And I go, I'm all in. So I think my expectations were a little bit different. And yeah, other than that, I think it was good. I wouldn't run to like go tell everybody to go watch it, but it definitely is something that I think everybody should watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to your point of like not dramatizing it, and to your point too, Jess, of if it being true to the story. I mean, it being based off of a memoir, like I think that was the director's intent was really just to like present the story as it was, and apparently like there was hardly anything that was altered from what was factual or kind of truthful in it. So because of that, you know, it ends up not being like a traditional 21st century film that's trying to be more
pull you in and
like so much cinema nowadays is there's a lot of different things that is flashy and it's meant to be you know, keep the viewer engaged the whole time, but this is like you're just kind of like sitting in the mother's pain and toil and trying to keep things together and trying to like figure out what's going on too, because they really don't give you a whole lot. It's like you're just kind of like almost sitting there as stuff is happening. And tons of symbolism throughout the whole film.
It almost feels like when you're sitting down and your grandparent is telling you a story. Like literally, you get to like live it with her.
Yeah.
Right? Like I think that was the whole point of telling the story.
Yeah, I mean, because it's a real story, it has more impact because you're like, oh shit, this actually happened.
Yeah.
But I mean, even a lot of stuff that happens in real life is more exciting than what happened here. Not as tragic, but like I don't know, just that excitement just wasn't quite there with this story. That's all. But
I don't think this is supposed to be exciting at all. Yeah.
I also think that there was like the one interesting aspect for me, just because I'm like seeing it all day and I'm like entrenched in it, was somewhat like the parallels of like fear and government and like fear about the future of a country's state affairs. Like I felt like that was really real. Like maybe it was just me, but like it feels like in the theater, like you could feel people kind of feel like, oh, with how much fear is happening right now about like what is the federal government doing. Some people really feel unsafe and really scared about the future of our country. So that I feel like I could feel in the theater when some of the stuff about like the abuses of the military and like all of these really tragic things that were happening to people going missing, felt like, wow, that's really wild that this happened, in the 70s?
Yeah, because like you can watch this movie as just kind of like a crime drama, or if you watch it thinking about what's happening today or has been happening, then it adds a level of like, I really feel like I'm there with, I get, like, I just wrote down helplessness. Like, it really, like, portrays, like, the helplessness that we feel a lot of times with, like, government. Like, we can't, like, we feel like we can't do anything to change all the negative things that are happening. So, like, like, it felt like they couldn't do anything about what was happening. Like, the husband was taken and they didn't know what to do and they couldn't really do anything.
And even too, I think with like information sharing, right? Like the desperation with the mom when they're finding out, like they're denying ever even having arrested him, and they're denying, you know,
trying to get any sort of answer from anybody. Right?
Yeah, like even that piece of it where it was like the government's just saying what they want to say and like creating their own truth and hiding what is actually happening, like by spreading lies through the news. Even that part I feel like resonated from some of the things that we see now where we're like, well, that's, you can't, just because you say that doesn't make it real or like doesn't make it the truth. I feel like that helplessness really was there in that scene where she's like, you need to help me. Like no one, you're the only person that saw him there.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like from a timeliness, you know, just here in the US, and there being maybe some parallel fears that people have, but as I was doing some research, like the political climate in Brazil right now is really rocky, and people are afraid that it's shifting back towards more of a dictatorship. And so the fact that they made this film now, as they're facing political instability, and this is one of the darkest times in like Brazil's recent history, it really it doesn't resonate with me in the same way that like it resonates with a ton of Brazilians, and is a much more like powerful, impactful, and almost like dark story because of the parallels that they're feeling. So
Well, I heard that it was unsuccessfully protested by the far right party in Brazil. I don't know if this is true. Okay, I probably pulled this up like Wikipedia or something. But yeah, I saw that they were like protesting the film, saying that it was inaccurate and like staying to their belief that that was not a dictatorship.
Interesting.
The guy who wrote it got attacked this week, apparently.
are you
my God.
serious?
Yeah, that's what I saw this
Well,
morning.
it was
yeah.
the son who wrote this.
Yeah, the son.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, right.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, like some carnival, someone attacked him. Yeah.
Wow.
Crazy. It reminded me of a few things I've watched recently. We watched the show called Say Anything. It's on Hulu. It's basically like it's in Ireland, and like it's basically follows like IRA members who are fighting against the government, basically. But it's like two sisters. It's really, really good. But it kind of had that sort of a feeling. And then it also reminded me of a documentary which was about Ukraine. I mean, before the war with Russia. Basically the same thing, overthrowing their government. And it just like, I remember watching that documentary, and it's like, you know, it's like protests that we have here, except for people are getting shot and killed. Like it's that intense. So just that feeling of like, what is like, you risk a lot speaking up for what you believe in some countries where you might be killed. Like, so it reminded me of those two things when I was watching, but yeah.
Especially when the people, well, the military that come into her house, presumably.
Right.
And you can even see her navigating that scene where I'm like, oh my gosh, why is she just letting them, like, I would be in here like saying like, what are you doing? You're not, like, I was like, my own physical reaction to that was like, I would have been like this, and I would have said this, and I would have told them this and that and this other piece of my mind. But even just the way that you watch her navigate that is like, it's very sensitive. It's a very fragile, you know, balance of like, I got to keep my family safe, but also like what's going on.
Exactly. Yeah. She's like in her head, she's like, what can I do? I can't really do anything. So I'm not going to like be too aggressive because that's just going to hurt everybody else in the family.
Right.
This like silent strength that,
Yeah.
but that scene, so I went back, there's some breakdowns of it on YouTube, some really cool filmmaking that is done with it where, prior to that, very lively, all of the windows are open and it's bright and there's lots of noise that's happening and the soundtrack is there. And as soon as the men enter, they start to close the shades and things start to like close off. So the light starts to disappear, the noise starts to like fade out, and the music drops out, and like things start to really like close in, from like a visual perspective, which is just really good filmmaking. Just the different tools that they're using to create, one of the first big moments in the film. Really what sets off the whole story, and kind of breaks you out of this like almost fantasy that they're having, on the beach side, and everyone's
Partying.
lively, they're dancing, right?
yeah.
Like we were immersed in that for 30 minutes and just kind of like living life with them. And then all of a sudden, like it just cuts off, and then the whole tone of the film changes. So I thought that looking back on it, again, it was hard I want to go back and watch it again because I feel like I'd appreciate it so much more if I kind of went in with a better mindset. But there's so much nuances in the filmmaking throughout that is powerful.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I love how the camera work throughout, especially at the beginning. It just like is very kind of floaty. It made you feel like you were kind of like a fly on the wall in the room with the family, and it was very effective at like having like a sense of time and place and like bringing you into that moment. Yeah.
I'm always really weary of, especially in the beginning of a movie, when they make you love it too much, where they're
it's too
trying to
happy.
build the attachment right to the characters and like the life. I'm like, oh, something tragic's about to happen. Like you can tell they're trying to make me feel something with this family. Something bad's about to go down.
Yeah, for sure. The other scene that I thought was really powerful, I think there's two scenes, and I'm not gonna spoil anything, but like I'll just say the shower scene was very powerful to me. I guess I'll also say this is not spoiler. The choice to show her actually naked, like in the shot, just showed how like raw it was for her, and obviously, yeah. Anyway, I just really like that. I thought that scene was powerful. And then the second scene was when they're taking a picture, and she's like, "We're gonna smile," and the editor's like, "Oh no, you look sadder." She's like, "We're not sad. We're gonna be happy."
Yeah.
Like those two scenes were very strong. I felt like.
Well, that theme kept coming back.
It did,
like
yeah.
Eunice, no, through it all, always was like putting on this, trying to be strong for her kids and shield them from the tragedy that was happening and try and pull them out of the darkness, I guess. And so that kind of strength throughout, and then kind of seeing how it wraps up at the end is pretty powerful.
Yeah.
The one thing that like frustrated me, like personally, was when she wasn't like telling things to her older daughters. And I was just like, just let them know what's happening, because I don't know. I get that point of view, and like that's how my parents raised me. They didn't talk about anything really, and that always makes me mad. I'm like, just tell them, like they're old enough to they should know, like they know something's up already. So might as well just
I mean, I'm
tell
not a
them.
parent, but I feel like that comes from a place of like wanting to protect your kids,
Protection,
right? Because
yeah.
once you share that with them, you're kind of sharing the burden with them and like the weight of it. And I also feel like at the same time, she's also in her own head trying to figure out what the heck is going on and like what to do.
Right.
But it's tough because I the scene where she like slaps the kid, I literally had like a moment too where I'm like, oh my gosh, it reminds me of like when I was a kid, and I'd be like, why don't you just tell me this? Like I know I'm grown enough. But it's kind of one of those things like hindsight, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, like I was, a kid thinking I knew grown people's business.
Yeah. Yeah. But it was so personal. It was like about their father. It's just like, at least tell them something. But yeah, that was just my thought.
Yeah.
Just to break things up a little bit, I don't have trivia per se, but I do have some really interesting facts. I've got one trivia. Who was the elderly woman at the very end? What significance in real life does she have?
It's her real mom.
I assume it's the mom.
Yeah, it is her real mom, which I didn't realize.
Wait, what do you mean? Whose real mom?
Fernanda's mom.
Fernanda
mom.
Torres. That was her real.
That's
That
her
was
real
her
mother.
real. I was thinking it was. I was thinking it was the real person. The real.
No, the real person has passed away.
Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha. So, but Fernanda's mom. Oh, interesting.
yeah, which is cool.
Oh my God! So she would technically. Oh wait, no, because when you get an Oscar, it's not like the other ones where everybody gets an Oscar, right?
Correct.
Not for
It's
best.
not for
actress.
best lead or whatever. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So that is crazy.
because they look so much
Yeah.
alike.
Right.
But
Well, that's interesting because I was like, did they do I couldn't tell. I thought maybe they did like really good makeup, like just made her look older.
Yeah.
Okay, well that makes
I
more
thought
sense.
they did a really good casting job. I was
Yeah,
like,
that too.
I thought
It
when
was a
you
good
said that, I
casting
was
job,
like,
too.
wow, because sometimes movies, if you're like, that's wild, they're like identical. I thought it was one of those things.
Yeah. Okay.
but
interesting.
also speaks to why they look so much alike, and also why she was able to give such like a strong performance, saying absolutely nothing, because she's a brilliant actress. I guess I didn't realize she was.
She won the first Oscar for Brazilian actress. Yeah.
Some other really interesting things. So the director actually lived near that home when he was growing up and had been in it, and so it was familiar. And some other interesting things about the making of the film was the actors lived in that home for a month prior to even filming. So they got there and they just started living together.
Method acting. Yeah.
And they didn't even start practicing lines right away, but it was just like spending time and really becoming a family before they began to film, which I thought was really cool, because there is this just natural fluidity between everyone.
So I assume the home they filmed in is not the actual home.
It is
the
the
actual
actual
home.
I think
That's cool.
I believe it is the actual home.
I don't
if
know.
I remember
I don't know.
right.
You're the fact. You're the one.
I know.
bringing the facts.
You'll need to fact check me on that, but I do believe that was
Okay.
the
Someone
actual
fact
home.
check Dan in the comments, please.
That's interesting because
Yeah.
it was a very photogenic home.
It
It was, there's a lot of space to get cameras.
You
and
know
stuff.
what? You're right. Maybe
Well,
it
I'm not
wasn't.
saying
Maybe
it wasn't. I'm not saying it wasn't. I'm just saying it was lucky if it was that big.
Couple of other interesting things. They filmed chronologically, so that like almost never happens in film. It's very unique, but it allowed them to like progress through that story, and you know for them to not have to be constantly shifting emotion, which I thought was interesting. The other really interesting thing was the director, Walter Sias, cut out all of Fernando Torres's crying scenes. So there were crying scenes throughout.
Oh, interesting.
But he made like the creative choice to not have any crying, to basically like reinforce that strength that she was kind of putting on throughout the whole thing, and like not wanting to share any of that with the kids, and kind of like, I don't know, repressing it almost to try and move forward.
Yeah, I think part of that was because I read the same thing. I think Marcelo too had mentioned that he never saw his mom cry.
Yeah.
And so that was
staying
kind of a
true
part
to
of
the
it too.
story.
Yeah.
I mean, that is, I feel like it was more powerful.
Right.
I was waiting for the moment where I was like, I thought once the scene where she's, I don't know if it's the lawyer or one of her friends or whatever that comes over, or it's one of her like friends, but that scene I was like, oh, okay, here it comes. Like, we're going to finally see her alone in a moment of vulnerability. And then the little girl walks in, and I was like, oh.
She does cry in that scene a little bit.
You barely see it.
But I like it. She cries a little bit, and then the daughter comes in, and it cuts it off, right?
But I don't think you see her. Like, when she walks into the room, her head is turned, and she's like kind of hunched over a little bit, and then she's like, Mom? And then she like turns, and she's like, turns it off. And she's like, what's up?
Yeah, maybe we just know that.
Right. But like, for what the movie is, and just finding out what she finds out, I would expect like, I was like, okay, here it comes. Because I don't even feel like, there was a couple of other opportunities where they could have done that, where before she comes home after being gone for 7 days. That was like another moment where I was like, wow, the shower scene was powerful without that. But I don't know. That is a cool fact.
Yeah, I like that.
So what do we think of Fernanda Torres on the nominee for Best Actress? Do you think she's deserving of that?
She won the Golden Globe.
Who else is on the list?
That is a good question.
The Demi Moore, right?
Right, yeah.
I feel like Fernanda does a better job than Demi Moore. Like,
or no, she didn't win.
She killed it in the substance and whatever, but like two different. Like, to me, this is almost like what is it called? Like theater. It's almost like stage theater acting, where it's like it stands on its own. It reminds me a little bit of A Marriage Story, where like Adam Driver, and I won't get into this, but like the difference between Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson and the performances there are so different in their believability, because it's literally just such raw, like what you have to do when you do theater acting. It's like, you got to use what you've got. And like, if you don't believe it, the audience ain't buying it. To me, that's like the comparison of like, I kind of feel like Demi Moore is like Scarlett Johansson and Fernanda is like Adam Driver, where it's like, I would want to see Fernanda in a one-woman play. Demi Moore, I'm like, I don't know that she could pull that off. You know what I mean? She did great, but if it's between those two, I'm gonna go for
Jared.
her.
Did you have any of the other nominees?
Yeah, so we have Demi Moore. We have Carla from Amelia Perez, Cynthia Erivo from Wicked, and Mickey Madison from Anora.
Oh, right. So, and I will say the SAG Awards just happened, and Demi Moore won that one. So.
She did good, but I don't know.
I think personally, I haven't seen all of those movies, so I can't make. I guess the last two I haven't seen. I've seen.
You saw Wicked.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Wicked, Substance.
This one,
Amelia Perez, and this one. So I'm missing
Anora.
two others.
Just Anora.
Oh, just Anora.
Anora, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely think Fernanda Torres could easily win this, because the amount of like nuance in this performance and like the restraint she had to in her acting, like there's never like, that's real talent. I think when you can show a level of restraint in your acting but portray so much without really like being big and bold and like emotion.
You know exactly what she's feeling every single moment, and
in moments where I'm like, oh my gosh, I this scene feels like it's bursting at the seams with emotion. and the way that she's almost able to like make me feel safe, because she's like, I have to like really step up for my family. I'm not gonna like, I can't, it's almost like that's not even a possibility, right? I'm not a mom, but that's what I imagine a lot of mothers go through, where it's like, my only objective here is to like make it through for my family and like be there for them and take care of them and protect them. That was powerful, where it was like, I'm feeling this rush of emotion, I can only imagine how she's feeling, and then she holds it down. Incredible.
Yeah. I think I agree. I think I agree that she's the best out of that group, but I don't think she'll win, because I feel like the Oscars is not just who did the best. It's like they want to give Demi Moore some cred because she's been in the industry so long and she's never won anything.
Oh, I hate that.
But I do think that Fernanda Torres was better.
Yeah.
I think so. I would say that.
I could see, Cynthia Erivo from those, like, she did a fantastic job in Wicked, but I don't think it's nearly as difficult to portray that as it is like such a nuanced character as Fernanda Torres.
I don't know. I feel like Cynthia Erivo's interview, she goes really into detail about this like huge emotional I didn't even watch the movie, so like I'm totally pulling this out of my behind.
Wicked?
But, yeah.
Yeah, she hasn't seen it yet.
I didn't see Wicked,
but
Cynthia
you saw it?
Erivo like talks about this whole thing about how like there's all these nuances and all these parallels and all these like she gets very like squishy with the like, well, this and this really deep thing about the character, and I'm like, if
it's all in her head, then I guess it doesn't
I'm like,
matter.
I haven't seen the movie. I've never watched Wicked, but I'm like, isn't this a story about like kind of like it's just like a musical that's like kind of like ooh, I don't know.
Well, there's a lot more to it.
There is.
There's a lot with like racism really to it, basically. But yeah,
which is interesting because I don't think that was ever the intent in the musical, which maybe there was.
Well, I think so. Yeah. Just her skin being green, like I feel like that was.
Well,
right in your face.
but they cast a white actress. In Broadway, so that's why
But I think the story, I would say the story has that element into it. I agree that's a weird choice to have a white actress do it, but
super relevant for right now anyway. Yeah.
Shoot, I was gonna say something about.
Sorry,
doesn't matter. It's gone.
It's gone.
The nominees, Demi Moore.
No, it's gone.
Fernanda should be the one to win.
So I will say, I was kind of like 3/4 of the way in. I was kind of like, oh, this is not settling how I want it to. I don't know if I'm gonna like it. But once I'll say the last part of it, which I won't spoil what it is, but there's a last section that actually turned it around for me, and like with the family at the home, the very last scene.
Yeah.
It actually like I was like, okay, that's a satisfying ending, and it worked. It had a meaning. And it kind of turned around for me, honestly. I was up until that point, I was like, I'm not sure if this is going to end how I wanted to.
Yeah, I feel like at that last scene played, and all of a sudden, like the whole weight of the story kind of fell on me, and I'm like, and then you see that it is a true story. Like I knew that going in, but they reveal like all the facts about it. And at that point, I was like, yeah, this happened. This is super, yeah.
And just this
is real life.
It coming full circle with the families laughing and joyous together, like it brings you right back to the beginning.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And then the picture moment.
Yeah.
Were there? So I guess I struggled in the first 30 minutes of catching up with what was going on in the country, as well as all of the characters and all the kids, and
getting to know every single kid.
It did hinder me a little bit, and it's more on me than the film, but I was just like, I can't keep track of all the kids, like who's who, and I kept getting mixed up, the daughter that goes away and then the daughter that's like second oldest. I kept getting those
so
two
similar
mixed
too.
Yeah, so I struggled with that, and I felt like the first 30 minutes I was just trying to piece it all together in my head, and I was like not paying as close attention to it. But you felt that too?
I felt that too. What I think is interesting is, especially with like the father's character, you don't really get to know like too much of like what he's doing in the first 30 minutes.
Yes. Yeah.
Obviously, they like give us more information as the film goes on. Yeah. I think what's interesting is just reading back about it. Like, I didn't really know anything about what he was really doing. Yeah. So you are seeing it kind of from like mostly the mother's perspective, the kid's perspective. Like you as the audience are almost like getting the information at the same time they are.
Yeah, we were confused too, but we just chalked it up to, dang it, we missed the
Yeah.
first 10 minutes.
15
I
minutes.
was like,
I don't think
Dan, I gotta Google this. I'm like, I'm so lost. I really
Yeah.
didn't understand. I was like, what is this political struggle? I was like, what's
Right.
going on?
Yeah.
Like, people are getting arrested. There's fear.
I mean, the whole time I'm like, okay, what did I miss? And then looking back on it and reading that, oh, we didn't actually miss anything. It was like, okay, the filmmaker intentionally slowly trickled those pieces so that like it isn't all just presented to you right away.
Yeah, and I just think it's a film made for Brazilians.
Yeah.
Right.
True.
Right. That's
I think
the thing
that's
too.
what
Like
it is.
we're not
just
gonna
ignorant.
know
We're
that. Yeah, we're just
dumb
ignorant.
Americans.
We're not gonna have like resonate with that as much, obviously, or know as much about it.
Yeah. Like I said, there are a couple things that are real and like truthful to the story that I feel like are confusing. Like, again, this doesn't really spoil it, but like the son is in a wheelchair at the end, and I'm like, does that come into play? Like, what is happening here? No, it's just it happened in real life, so it has to
Right.
happen.
Right.
But like these elements like that, it just like if you wrote that, you wouldn't have him in a wheelchair because it has nothing to do with the story.
Right.
So there are some things like that I was just like confused. I'm
That's
like,
a good point.
is that, or like the daughter going to England, like it didn't do anything to this. It didn't push the story forward at all. But it was confusing because it was like, wait, is she doing something over there? Because they had her name at one point. So there were these elements that I was just like trying to piece something together that just wasn't there. And I think that's like the biggest thing that was just like, it made it hard to enjoy it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I'm with you. Like there were just pieces where it felt like we're missing from the narrative that like a normal movie would probably give the audience.
Does anyone have anything else to add before we jump into final reviews?
Oh,
Like rating?
Oh, okay.
I don't think so. No.
Does anyone do Adam? Do you have like a trivia that you?
Oh yeah, I can throw out a trivia right now. So this movie is up for Best Picture in the Oscars. What was the first foreign film to win Best Picture in the Oscars?
Oh. Do we get a multiple choice?
No,
I don't know.
no, because I wouldn't be able to come up with proper choices.
ChatGPT would be good for that, for coming up with multiple choice false answers.
Well, it's too late for that.
I have no idea.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, you guys, you should know it. You should know it.
What year?
2019,
Oh, Parasite.
Parasite.
For some reason I was thinking like, you know,
Well, exactly.
Me too.
Right.
it
That's
would've
why it's a
happened
trick
in the
question.
1900s, yeah.
That's why it's a trick question because you're just like, oh, must
Yeah.
have been a foreign film from way
From
back
way
when.
back when.
Parasite was the first foreign film to win Best Picture.
God, Parasite is such a good movie.
It's very good.
It's
Oh,
so good.
ooh.
Oh, you didn't like it?
No, I liked it,
Oh,
but
but
it's like the whole
The
ooh.
idea of it.
I just couldn't. I don't know. It made my skin crawl in not a good way. Where I was just like,
Yeah.
oh, I can't watch this.
All right. Well, before I give my rating, Rotten Tomatoes said 97%, both audience and critics. IMDb 8.7 out of 10. I'll be honest. I think coming out of the theater, I gave it I was like, okay, it's like a 3 out of 5. But as I was doing more research on it, whatever, and just seeing all of the symbolism and the intentionality and like the craft that really went into it, I want to go back and watch it so I can give it a more objective rating, because I think there's too much clouding what I was able to glean out of it by just like the overall experience.
Okay, so are you not rating it or?
3 out of 5,
Oh, okay.
but
Now.
3 out of 5 right now, but I think it would be higher if I watched it again.
Okay.
I would say probably like a 3.75.
Not
Not quite a 4 for me personally, but I think everything was well done. Like from the way that it was shot to the acting to the staying true to the story to like making the point, and like I thought it was really well done.
I'd give it a 4 out of 5. I like not knowing anything about it going in, really fell in love with the family at the beginning of the film and was in it for the ride. And there were some really like poignant, like powerful moments in the film that I thought were really well done. And the subtlety, like we've been saying, of the performances was just definitely like the best acting I've seen in a movie this year, I think.
Yeah.
Wow, that's big.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. I would say 4. I do think like if I'm rating it just on merit, just like how good the film was made, probably 4.5. But like my enjoyment of it was sitting at a 4. That's kind of how I would frame
Yeah.
it. But.
That's a good
Yeah.
distinction. Like from a craft perspective, it's probably very high, excellent.
Yeah.
You know, close to 5 or 4.5.
It's not a movie I want to go back and watch.
Agreed.
Well, see, that's the thing is like I was thinking about that at the end. And I'm like, I don't think I need to rewatch it. I felt like I got everything out of it.
Yeah.
And that's usually when I do like 4.5 and 5s, those gotta be movies I want to rewatch. And I don't really need to rewatch it. It was just so kind of like simple. It was good, but simple. And I'm like, I don't need to rewatch it again.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, it was simple yet complex. A simple
It was subtle
story,
like
but
we're
with
saying.
lots of complexity,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
So. Cool.
Yeah, we'll see what happens on Sunday, right?
Right, yeah, that'll be interesting.
I don't know if this episode will be
Probably
out
won't even
before
be
that.
out. Yeah, so you
not.
probably already
You
know what
already
happened.
Tell us in the comments what happened.
Does anybody have just some any shout outs, or is what you've been watching your shout outs before we wrap it up?
Kind of did that, yeah. That's okay. I did watch Real Pain, which what's the guy? Who's getting nominated?
It's the Home Alone dude.
Yeah,
His brother.
But his brother. Does anybody know?
Oh, yeah.
The guy isn't he in
Culkin.
Severance or not? No, he's in something. No.
I
In,
thought you said it was the Home Alone guy's brother.
Yeah. What did you say?
Culkin?
Yeah.
I don't remember what his
Kieran
first
Culkin.
name is.
Is in Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin in A Real Pain. It was really good. They basically play like their cousins that go to. Oh gosh, we gotta cut this out because I don't remember. They go to wherever Auschwitz is. Auschwitz.
I
So
think that's in Austria
Austria.
Auschwitz?
or
No.
Poland.
Poland. That's it. They go to Poland. We'll cut that. Maybe not. I don't know. They go to Poland to basically see that and like their grandma lived through that, survived through that. So it's just them going on this trip. But Kieran Culkin's character is just very kind of obnoxious, but very like charismatic, and everybody's into him, but he's kind of a jerk. And then Jesse Eisenberg is just very like put together and very like proper, and it's just this character study of them going back and forth doing this really impactful trip. So it was pretty good. I kind of liked it. So, but
is he up for something?
for supporting actor,
Supporting actor?
yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I don't have anything else beyond what I shared. Watched The Sixth Sense again, which was fun.
Nice. My only shout out is Severance because we're watching.
I've been
That's
waiting.
breaking the rules. You told me I couldn't shout out TV shows.
You could shout out a TV
I've asked you that
show.
before, and you said this is a movie podcast.
Well, that was when we were picking our top of the year. And you couldn't do TV.
No, I've asked Dan if I could shout out TV shows before, and he told me I couldn't.
All right. Well, that's what we got.
Yep.
I'm still here. Check it out. It's probably going to be out on streaming by the time that this gets released. So definitely worth a watch.
Let us know what you want us to review next. What movies do you guys want us to see? What
Until-
bad takes do you guys have? Emilia Perez, anybody?
Yep. All right. Until next time. See you guys.
See ya.